Get ready. Hold tight.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
Libos.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit old for you.
With that deep into Danny Roll, please don't clip that.
Been truly horrific having this season away from home.
I want goals!
Anyone would think that we rehearse this, and I guarantee that we haven't.
How poor do we have to be before it's happened? How much blood from this stone does he have to get?
For Wednesday Week!
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Wednesday Week's preview show. We are hot on the heels of a successful 3 points on the road to Championship strugglers Hull City on Tuesday night. And ahead of this weekend's game at Derby County, I am joined by Chris from the Rams Review podcast in our latest episode of...
Hello from the other side.
Can you hear me, Chris?
I love your credit, Stevie. That's amazing. That's the best introduction I've had all season.
Hey, we're award-winning in these parts. I will tell you.
I'm not surprised. I'm going to hold my head in shame next time I do my pod.
Are you good, mate? Good to get to talk to you. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Other than the disappointment of a home defeat last night, yeah, all good, sir.
Brilliant. Well, we'll get into that. We'll talk a little bit form. I've got a couple of questions for you around where you see Derby this season. Obviously coming up out of League One, and as we said, you're newly promoted to the Championship after finishing runners-up. Coming into the Championship this season, what were your expectations as a fan base, as a club? What were you hoping to achieve this year?
Well, I think that your wonderful side actually did us a favour a couple of years ago by knocking us out of the playoffs with that 1-0 win at Hillsborough, and I think we wasn't ready, is the reality. So I think that you actually did us a favour that day. Expectations, reality is 21st. We can, if we come at 25, I think any Derby fan, after what we've gone through this last 2 or 3 years, and everyone knows the history now, will know that if we can survive the Championship this year and come 21st, it's a success. Because ultimately, we do not want to go back down in that quagmire, what they call League One, which is, let's be honest, Stephen, as you know, because Sheffield Wednesday have been there too, it's garbage.
Yeah, we were stressing. We didn't get up the first season. We had to get up the second because I think you run the risk and the fear of sort of getting yourself lost in there, and it's a long time out if you don't get out there pretty sharpish, isn't it? But I agree with you. There's been some torrid times. Fleetwoods, your Accringtons, your Morecambes. We do respect to those clubs. They're not the teams like Sheffield Wednesday and Derby County should be playing against, are they?
No, and also it's a big revenue loss, isn't it? And fundamentally, yeah, we've had our accounts just released this year from this season that got us, the promotion season, and we lost 14 million quid. So, I can't imagine what it'd be like to be in there 2 or 3 years. It would put the club back into disarray again. So, yeah, we're out there. So going back to the question, 21st is the reality of where I think most Derby fans would like to see us. But, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And just on that, how do you think you've started this season? Obviously, we're a little bit above 21st, so you take it? Well,
if you'd have asked me on Tuesday at midday, I would have said, brilliant, no problem at all. If you'd have asked me, now you're asking me now, we have dropped 4 places and a point close to the relegation zone. Inconsistent is the best word. We started off poor at Blackburn. We were the first game on the Friday night, as everyone can remember. And other than a mad 12-minute spell when they got 3 in the second half, we did okay. But we found our feet quite quickly after that and got some really good results. Lucky is probably a word I'd say for most of them. Like Borough absolutely destroyed us, yet we managed to get a 1-0 win with a Caden Jackson breakaway goal. But as we'll talk, we've only won 2 in 12 now. Our home form is starting to get a little bit ropey, and we seem to draw away from home now. We've gone from a team that couldn't buy a win to now a team who cannot get anything other than a draw. So, Paul Warne is what Paul Warne does. And, we're one of those teams that doesn't seem to have an identity. and I think that's shown in our start. But look, we're 15th. We're 6 places above where I think we would be this time of year. What worries us more is that we've got a very ropey December coming.
Yeah. Just on that, then, what do you think has changed? What's changed from the start of the season? What's turned those sort of positive results and outcomes into the more sort of? Do you think it's just a case of things have settled down and we're now a team that is? And I've actually written as I put out the question to you, I was thinking to myself, looking at your form. Yeah, I think it's you've won 1, drawn 3, and lost 2 of your last 6. You said you've won 2 in 12. Is that a worrying downturn in form, or are you just a really mid-table side at the moment, do you reckon?
I think we're very lucky in the sense that the championship isn't all what we thought it would be, and that's no disrespect to the championship. We've been away from it 2 years, and I don't know your thoughts, Stevie, but I don't think it's a powerful league as what it has been in the past. Yes, there's some cream at the top, but we look at the teams that we've played recently, and none of them have really turned us over. I think, if anything, we've just beat ourselves.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is that teams have now worked out how Paul Warne plays, and let's be honest, Stevie, it's not difficult. He has a very direct width approach to football, and I think it caught clubs by surprise, certainly for the first 7 or 8 games. I think now people scout, and there's plenty of videos out there of Derby County, and I think the word that we've been using on local press, and I did a radio station show this week, and we all agreed that we're very predictable. And we really got a plan B. And I think teams have worked out our plan A quite quickly. The other thing that I'll say is that we've got an aging squad. We've got 7 freebies. We have 3 or 4 loans. Our average age is probably late 20s. So, is it also the legs are starting to become heavy? Who knows? But look, I'll take 15th all day long, and other fans will. But like I said, I would have liked to have had another 6 points on the board going into this game, certainly.
Yeah, just on that point of the quality of the championship not being necessarily what it has been in the past, I think I was listening to you talking there, and the results that you've had, you've been quite lucky. Nobody's absolutely turned you over, and I'd say the same to an extent for us in recent weeks. We had a bit of a rocky start following the 4-0 win on the opening day of the season, with some absolute hidings. We had a hiding at Sunderland. We got turned over by Leeds, and that was a 2-0 fair play. We've lost that one, and then I think personally we felt quite unfortunate with the results that we've had, and even we had an absolute drubbing a couple of weeks ago by Watford at home, and that first half performance was the best we played. It was the best we played in the first half. We ended up losing 6-2. We just capitulated second half. It was incredible. People were walking out the ground going, "What the bloody hell's happened there?" So the quality of the championship is inconsistent, I think would be a word I'd sort of lean towards. You mentioned the squad that you've put together since coming out of League One, and I had a quick look earlier on today. On paper, it looks like you've brought in a couple of players from sort of reputable Premier League teams. You've got Nat Phillips who's come in. I'm not sure how much he's played. You've got Jerry Yates who's done bits at this level, and a friend of Sheffield Wednesday from his Ipswich days, Marcus Harness. Can you talk us through how some of your players have settled in, what they've been like this season, things that we need to be sort of looking out for?
Yeah, we were one of those clubs that obviously we're classed as a big fish, and we're like yourselves. We average a good attendance every week. So the expectations were high that we were told pre-season that we'd have a very competitive budget and bring in a team that would compete in the championship. We still haven't got an out-and-out centre forward. We've got Jerry Yates on loan from Swansea. He couldn't play last night. He's been the form player, certainly, the last 3 or 4 games, and I think he scored in every one of those. But Jerry Yates, if he's being let go by Swansea and being replaced by an incoming, it tells you what they think of where he is at the level. Yeah. I think our big 2 signings have had to be the keeper, Jakob Vidal-Zetterstrom from Sweden, who's Sweden's number 2, but you'll quickly see on Saturday that he will be a Premier League player, no doubt, within the next 18 months. I wouldn't be surprised at all if someone comes in cheeky in January. We've only had him since August. There was a it went on and on and on because the club that he was with were in the Europa Conference qualifying rounds, and they didn't want to let him go until they qualified. Djurgården was the team that we got him from.
Okay.
And he came through, and he's been a revelation. Classic case, though, of a European keeper that can't kick for toffee. But he'll get there. As a shot stopper, he's immense. The other signing, which was exciting, and I'm not sure you'll see him on this weekend on Sunday, is David Ozo, who we signed from Palace, who's a 19-year-old midfielder, and he's a beast. And he will be another one to watch. I would say, on my own point of view, I think he'll be a top 4 Premier League club player within 2 years. He's that good. He's injured at the moment. Yeah, and it reflects on the form of Derby that when he was in the team, he allowed other players. We've got a young Dutch midfielder called Houdman, who, when Ozo was in the team and sort of patrolled the middle, allowed Houdmine to get onto the ball and do his craft. We were great. Since Ozo has been out for the last 6-7 games injured, Houdmine has just disappeared, unable to get onto the ball. We've had the likes of Ebo Adams, who's been incredible, and Ebo Adams has probably been our star performer all season. Yeah. But what Ebo Adams is not a craft player. He is an out-and-out stopper. He's a terrier. He gets in, gets the ball, and then expects it to be passed on to somebody who can do the damage. Unfortunately, we haven't got that sort of element in the team at the moment. So, yeah, we're inundated with wingers, as Paul Warne teams always have. We've got Mendes-Lang, we've got Kane Jackson, we've got Joe Ward, we've got Barkhausen, we've got Corey Blackett-Taylor, who we signed from Charlton for 400 grand, and no one knows what he's done, but he can't get into the team at all. And we think there's been a spat there somewhere, and it's a shame because CBT was one of those players that when he was at Charlton, everyone wanted him. But since he's come to Derby, nobody wants him. It's a strange one. So, yeah, we're just... I think the easiest way to describe our transfer window is could do better. We desperately need a striker because we've got too many square pegs and round holes.
Right, okay. You've alluded to a couple of players there. I'm just going to pause the sort of trend in terms of talking about the weekend. I want to ask you about a player that we gave to you that you've ended up replacing with the goalkeeper, Joe Wildsmith. My recollection is that Joe Wildsmith had a pretty decent season with you guys. Did he end up being the League One goalkeeper of the year and then has moved on? What happened there?
So the rumour has it he's gone to West Brom. He had a loss of form, and he lost his place to another keeper from the South Yorkshire, Josh Vickers. And Josh came into the team, and I always think that Josh was signed to be Paul Warne's number 1, to be honest. But obviously, he had a tragic loss. He lost his wife last year through tragic circumstances, and it clearly affected him. But he was incredibly strong and forced his way back into the team, got the place. Wildsmith ultimately spat his dummy out, we believe. Derby offered him a contract in January. He refused to extend it. And the story, Wildsmith gets back in the team, plays well, gets the Golden Glove for League One. Then he's gone, and now he's sat on the bench at West Brom and not getting any minutes, I believe. What I will say about that, it's allowed us to bring in probably the best goalkeeper Derby have signed since, I would go as far back as Scott Carson, and probably before that Mark Poom. He's that good, and he's a beast of I think he's 6'6", 17 stone, and he's a handsome beast, as you'll see on Sunday.
Thought you were talking about me then, Chris.
Wait, Stevie, you can edit that after the recording, however you want to, mate.
Okay. The other one, I can't not ask you about Mendes-Lang. Much maligned Sheffield Wednesday figure. You go back to the season that he was with us. He will be the player that we most associate with the breakaway goal in injury time that Sunderland scored to sort of knock us out of the playoffs. How's he been for you?
If you'd have asked me that question 12 months ago, I would have said he's the best player on the planet. I think League One's his level. Is the reality. He's settled down. He's openly admitted that he's had some trauma and family issues and personal issues over the last couple of years. I think he's been to 3 or 4 clubs in the last sort of 12 months prior to him joining Derby. And it's well known that he also, he had a lot of personal things that were affecting his football. He's openly admitted now that he's settled in Derby. He loves it. His family are very happy. But I think he's come into the Championship. He got his second goal last night, a penalty. But he got a lot of stick last night from the crowd because his attitude doesn't seem to be the same. He's got the captain's armband, which he's lost. It's been given to Aaron Cashin, the young centre-half. Yeah. When Nathaniel Mendez-Lang was given the captaincy, Derby fans were pretty, eyes wide open and shocked because we didn't understand the relevance and how he had earned it as such. The only thing we can think of is that last year in League One, he was such an enforcer and such an important player. And I think combined goals and assists is probably in the top 2 or 3 players in the league. And he got into the League One Team of the Year. Yeah. This year, it's just a different player. I don't know if it's he's traveling to Honduras every international break, and he's coming back lethargic and tired. And I think it's just got to the point now where he's getting more rest this year than he did last season. I think he's on the edge of actually losing his place again because last night he just wasn't good. And there's a lot of competition, as you know. Like I said, we've got an abundance of wingers. So whether you see him or not will be interesting. I think it'll be one of those choices that we wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him.
Yeah, that was going to be the next question. Just on the bit you were saying there, do you think he'll stick him in, or against his old team, potentially something to prove, or do you think he'll take him out of the firing line?
It's a really good question. I personally don't think he'll play. I don't think he'll start. I think last night wasn't great, although he got the penalty. His defensive duties were frail. He was definitely responsible for the second goal, without a doubt. He just didn't track back. He almost thinks that his role goes up to the halfway line, then he stops. And when this is Nathaniel Mendez-Lang all over, as you'll probably allude to, Stevie, he's just not a defensive-minded player. So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him.
And for every person that you just mentioned there, for every person that listens to this podcast, you'll have Wednesday fans screaming at their radios, throwing things at their screens when you've mentioned that, because we saw it. And to this day, as I said, I actually was sort of on the fence with the guy, but that tracking back or lack thereof effectively cost us the goal. We'd equalised, and things were looking good for us in that game, and we were hopeful of kicking on, and it just all turned into sixpence. And he's not going to get many friends if he in the return fixture. He's not going to be thought of very highly when he comes back to Hillsborough. Let's just put it that way. So, okay. Talk to me a little bit. We've spoken about Warne and his style of play. For the benefit of those people that are listening from a Wednesday perspective, obviously he came from down the road at Rotherham. How's he got you set up? What sort of formation do you play? What style of football? Is it progressive? Is it long ball? Do you surrender a lot of possession? Talk us through how we can expect to set up on Sunday.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head with your last quote there, giving away possession. We're not a possession team. I think our average possession stats this year are around 30-35%. He plays on the counter attack. We caught a lot of fans think he tinkers too much, and Rotherham fans also agree. He has a League One style of football, which is very direct. Hits the width pretty much every other attack. Expects the midfield to not get on the ball, so they almost get lost, the midfield, because I don't think they're quite sure they know what their responsibilities are, because he's so busy getting the ball out wide from the back to the likes of Mendes-Lang, to the likes of Jackson, to the likes of Beckett Taylor and Marcus Harness, that there's no real shape or identity. We fluttered with the back four, and we were very good. We had a real good structure, and like I said, teams were struggling to break us down. He's recently gone back to a 3 at the back and brought in Phillips to try to get him that Phillips. And now I don't know whether he's been brought into the team because he's under a one of these stupid loan deals where they have to play, or I have no idea. But there just seems to be too much tinkering for me to answer that question, Stevie, whether realistically, I can guarantee that we'll play this, because we just never know. Like last night when the team was read out over the Tannoy, there was just booze and horror because we played no centre forward. We played fundamentally 3 wingers up top and a false 9 in Kane Jackson. It just didn't work. So I would say expect Wednesday to have at least 70% of the ball. We're tenacious in midfield, but we're not creative. And I think because we're not creative, he likes it to be bypassed. But I don't know if Wednesday like to share the ball. I know you've got Barry Bannon, who I don't know what his form's like. He's aging now. He's about 58 now, isn't he?
He's got the hairline of a 58-year-old.
Well, I remember when he was at loan at Derby. He came to us from Villa, and he looked 30 then. And that was under Clumpy, I believe. So great player. So yeah, I think you'll see one up top Sunday, and I think you'll see probably a 4-5-1. I think Warren will be nervous Sunday because I think if he gets a loss, I think going into December, I think the fans' confidence with him will turn.
That's interesting. You mentioned the possession that you surrender, and we found at Sheffield Wednesday more often than not we are the team that allows other teams to have the ball. They seem to have more of the ball than we do. So it's interesting to see how we set up because, but conversely, bizarrely though, we like the way the majority of fans like the way that Danny Rule's got set up. He's brought in that sort of, I wouldn't say gegenpress. I think at various sort of iterations of what he's been trying to do, we might have got to that. But I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and I was sort of saying, I think from a Sheffield Wednesday point of view, I think Danny has realised that his ideas aren't going to translate with the players that he's been allowed to amass, with the restrictions that he's working with in terms of the finances that we've got, the money that we can't spend on players, and the players that he's recruited based on what we've been able to do. So I am genuinely interested to see with teams that tend to have less of the ball when we match up on Sunday, what's actually going to happen. So yeah, it's got the makings of either a really feisty sort of end-to-end game, I think, or it's going to be an absolute ball draw.
I can see it. Well, I can see us both doing a low block, and the ball just sits there in the middle, and we're looking at each other going, "Go on, go on, yeah, no, you go on." And you can just see it because we have no real identity to be on the ball. He's recruited that our recruitment doesn't allow us to have possession because we just haven't got the players to. One of the biggest problems we've got with Derby at the moment, and this has been the gripe of the fans the last 2 or 3 weeks, is that, believe it or not, we can't string 3 passes together. And I'm not talking out of turn there. We're struggling to put 3 passes together within the space of 5 to 10 yards. And this is because the players aren't used to having the ball. He's recruited players who basically like the ball in front of them that can run onto, or in midfield, who win the ball, and then they're not sure what to do with it. And that's reality.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna trouble you for a prediction in a moment and see how you think the game's going to play out on Sunday. But it'd be remiss of me not to just sort of tip my hat from a personal point of view. I was a big fan of the fella. I know he's a bit of I'd say icon. You might tell me otherwise, but we've both got memories of Darren Moore. Any Darren Moore sort of feelings, opinions? What was he like for you guys?
I loved him. I had the pleasure of working for the club for many years, and I was on various roles and duties throughout that tenure. And even when Darren Moore came as an away opposition coach, manager, bear in mind he worked through the ranks of the under-21s with West Brom and what have you. Absolute gentleman. And I love him. And what he did for Derby in the 2007-8 playoff final was nothing short of a miracle, because he single-handedly kept his beloved West Brom, from scoring. He was that good. As a manager, we've never seen him. Obviously, he's never ran our football club. I saw the success he had with you guys, and I thought he was treated pretty badly, to be honest. I don't think he was backed, but obviously you'll know more than me. And it just shows that he's doing well at Port Vale with a very limited budget in, let's be honest, not a very good league. But ultimately, he can only beat what's put in front of him. And I just wish him well. He's always been good to me. When I was on the mic and he was a visiting manager, coach, he remembered my name. Always very open and honest for a discussion. And he always had time for Derby fans, even, coming back to the club, that he's always had nothing but fond memories. Because ultimately, he had a very, very torrid season with us when we got that wonderful Premiership record that no one likes to talk about. 11 points. But he was probably the shining light and the player that sticks out as the guy that never gave up. But yeah, nothing but good things.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I'm not going to spend too much time from a Wednesday perspective, because guys will listen to us talk about it, and we've pontificated about Darren Moore for the last couple of years, and we've moved on from him now. But I'd echo your sentiment. Really nice guy, did well for us, and I wish him well, all the best. He's got one of our sort of talismanic midfielders, George Byers, from the League One era. He's managed to get him down there. He's absolutely doing bits at the minute. Moore is obviously, Byers has been injured, so I think he's just started training again. So I'm hoping to see a little bit of a Sheffield Wednesday link up, getting them out of League Two back into League One. Just on Wednesday, then, a couple more questions. Do you know or follow us? Have you been tracking our form? What are your opinions on us this season?
I'll be honest with you, I'm quite surprised you're struggling, because you've got that experience, haven't you? You've been back in the Championship a couple of years now, and you're. I think the easiest word you can describe you is inconsistent, isn't it? Because some days you pull up trees and it's just incredible what you do, and then some days you just you alluded to it earlier in the show when you get smacked for 6 and you don't know where it came from. I don't know what your finances are for such a big club as you are, because I look at Sheffield Wednesday, and I'm sure that Wednesday fans will pat me on the back when I say you are the biggest club in Sheffield, without doubt. And I think that you should be and will be back in the Premiership at some point. Regarding your current squad, looking at it now based on certain players, Barry Bannon, like I said, anyone knows that he's a fantastic footballer, but obviously he's aging, and I presume he's now, I don't know if he's gone deeper or he's still playing that 10 role and basically allowed to do what he wants to do. I would love him, and he's the kind of player that I would love for 6 months on loan and just come and sort us out, because he would. Josh Windass, everyone knows the ability that lad has. I'm surprised he's still in the Championship. I think he's one of those players that has either flattered to deceive or just hasn't grabbed his potential and ran with it. And then you've got Marvin Johnson, I believe, is still playing for you. And we tried, if I remember rightly, we tried to sign him, and everyone at Derby was thinking, well, which side of 30 is he? Is he 41 or is he 39? And but he's, you've got him in the squad, and I believe you've got Max Lowe now.
We've got Max Lowe,
for a former Derby player, and Max is an interesting one, because again, Max had the world at his feet and could have had everything, but he just didn't grab it. Did brilliantly up at Aberdeen, and got his reputation high again, and his stock holding high to come back down to England. But how many clubs has he had since then? And you just wonder. But I think he's playing in if I remember rightly, you play a 5, and he sort of plays inside left. If there's such a position nowadays, Stevie.
Yeah, that's it. You pick 3 players there who are in different ways quite divisive. Barry Bannon, I'm on the right side of the Barry Bannon fan club fence, if you like. He doesn't get the love that I think he deserves from Wednesday fans, because we look elsewhere. I would say there's a longevity around that, and people are used to seeing it. It's almost expected that when he puts that 40-yard crossfield pass in, or he dinks one, or he sees there's a turn or a tackle, he sees something that other players don't see, because we're used to it. We've come to expect it, and we're so familiar with the way that he plays. I don't think he gets the respect and recognition that he deserves from a lot of our fan base. I'm not saying everybody, because he's still, I'd say, universally loved. But there's a growing sort of group of fans that sort of saying he's getting a little bit older. He's not the player that he used to be. Still, on his day, will absolutely, if he turns up on Sunday, he will absolutely run the show. And what we've done to sort of aid and abet him is we brought in Shea Charles from Southampton, who will do his running. He'll break things up. He'll be that sort of that 5-10 yard, move the ball to allow Bannon a little bit more space to do the little bits that he does. And you'll see that we'll pop passes in the middle of the park, and Bannon will be front and centre of all of that. And I think he's maligned by some, but for me, I still love the bloke. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's the heart and soul of Sheffield Wednesday. In terms of Windass, yeah, you're absolutely right. As he flattered to deceive, again, his body language isn't necessarily what it should be at times, and that will sort of get people's backs up. But he is our clutch, big game player. You know, when we need a goal, you rely on Windass. When it's a big game, Newcastle in the FA Cup, when it's the playoff final, when it's a game that we've got to win to stay in the league, it's Windass that turns up. So he might be 6 out of 10 for 4 or 5 weeks, and then he'll stick one in the top corner from 35 yards, and you're absolutely. That's why we keep putting him in the team. So, you know, he's a bit of a blessing, if you like. And in terms of Max Lowe, interestingly, I did a preview show before the United game, and the way that the other fella described him was, Max Lowe is just there. We kind of sort of went, yeah, so he doesn't pull trees up, but I have to say, in the formation that we've played, that left of a 3, in recent weeks, he's absolutely made it his own. We had a fella called Akin Famewo, who had sort of got in and stepped in and made that his spot, but he's out long-term injury, and Maxwell seems to have dropped into that berth at the minute, and has found his feet. And I'm really happy for the guy, because again, we've talked about people that are nice guys in football. We talked about Darren Moore. Maxwell seems to be cut very much from that similar sort of cloth, if you like.
Yeah, I think if I remember rightly, the deal was when he went to United, they took Bogle as well.
Yes.
And I think both players found the Premiership very, very difficult.
Yeah,
I think he's at Leeds now, if I remember.
He is,
right.
yeah.
Which we were shocked about when we saw that, because obviously he's famous for his binoculars and the playoffs, and But yeah, I think Max was well loved at Derby. He's very left-sided, as you said. Yeah. I don't think he has a right foot, or I've certainly never seen him use it.
Me either.
He is Mr. 7 out of 10, and you're right. He's just there, and he won't pull up any trees, but he certainly won't let you down.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, final one, and thank you so much, Chris. Give me a score prediction for Sunday. What do you think?
Well, as you've probably seen, our goal difference is -1. It was 0 until last night. We're fuming with Swansea that they took our 0 goal difference. How dare they? We just don't score. We are a set piece goal scoring machine. I think we haven't scored in open play now for, I think we were looking at this, and I think QPR maybe the last time that and that was 7-8 weeks ago. We just tend to score from set plays. So if you see our players diving everywhere around sort of 20-30 yards, then you know what's coming. I predict that if we're going to win, we will scrape 1-0, because I just don't see where the goals are going to come from. The problem is with our team, Stevie, is that we could have, I don't know how this XG works. I'm sure I have no idea. I haven't got a bloody clue. I'm old school, and the way I see it is this: we can create 30 chances a game all day long, and the key was next year 8 point whatever. The reality is we haven't got quality at the end of it, Stevie, to put it in the net, and that's our big problem. And and I know, in the Championship, that's costing you £8 million up top minimum to get that person. Absolutely. So I'm going to go for 1-0. I think it's going to be a set piece goal, and we normally rely on Curtis Nelson to come up from the back and tap one in. Jerry Yates is on form. He scored 4 in 4, but he hasn't scored those goals. Oh, tell a lie. He scored an overhead kick, which is incredible. I don't know if you saw it at Plymouth, but it came from a set play. So I'll go for 1-0. I'm going to go for Curtis Nelson, back post, but I think you could easily turn us over as well because our confidence at the moment, Paul Warne is saying it's strong and our confidence is high. I'm not so sure.
I can see us drawing 1-1, or I can actually see us winning the game. I think we're starting to hit the ground, and we're coming out the other side of a poor run of form, if you like, in terms of results. But I think the football that we played the other night, even though we surrendered a lot of possession, I think we looked all right in phases. We should have beat Cardiff, and we should have beaten them handsomely. So for me, I'm going to go the other way. If not 1-1, I'm going to go for a 2-1 sneaky Wednesday win. I'm hoping I'm right, by the way. From a Wednesday week point of view, I'm hoping I'm right.
Just out of interest, Stevie, where do you see Wednesday finishing? Because Derby fans now are talking about that our biggest hope in this division now is that there's 3 worse teams than us, with being Plymouth, Pompey, and probably Oxford and Cardiff fighting for the third of those positions. Do you see Wednesday staying where they are now, or do you see you possibly challenging for the top 6 as a dark horse?
Well, I'll respond to the 3 teams worse than you point in a moment. Well, now I have seen, and obviously we've not played each other, but you must be better than Cardiff. You have to be. They were abject. They were awful. And I'm really surprised to see QPR, given the run that they went on last year under Cifuentes, sitting rock bottom. Portsmouth, I think, are going to be that team that perennially try but don't get much out of results. And I also think, depending on who they bring in, Hull are in trouble. Hull are in big trouble because they weren't great the other night either. So I do think you'll be all right in terms of staying up. I do believe that. From a Wednesday point of view, I started the season thinking anywhere between 6th and 8th would be a realistic proposition for us. We've lowered our expectation, and I think the feeling at Wednesday now is that we are a mid-table side, and that's all right by us. Somebody is going to go on a run, win 4 out of 5 in and around Easter, and push for the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me if we have a decent January and we get a decent run of form over Christmas, if that is us. But everybody's expectations have changed now, and I think, to be honest with you, we'd be happy with anywhere between 10th and 12th. 13th, that represents a decent season, and in terms of progression from where we were at for long periods of last season and where we finished up, to get to that point now and then maybe kick on next year with a respectable playoff push, I think is probably a realistic proposition for us.
Well, I certainly wish you all luck, Stevie. I've always had good fond memories of Hillsborough, and we've had some fantastic games against each other over the years. Like, as you can tell by my face, I'm only 23, so I've only seen a few. But my favourite game of all time was against Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup back at the old baseball ground, where you had Paul Warhurst take away my dream of an FA Cup semi-final. How dare he? That was the one where Nicholson hit the 35-yard screamer that hit the ball and went in. That's my favourite game of all time, and still to this day, there's a pair of my shoes somewhere under the grounds of the baseball ground, which is now a block of flats, by the way. But no, Steve, it's been great, and look, whatever happens on Sunday, I do wish Wednesday well. Like I said, I've got a soft spot for them. I've got a couple of really good close friends who are Sheffield Wednesday fans, and I have a lot of love for Wednesday and not so much love for the Blades, shall we say.
And I couldn't think of a better way to end the podcast than that. Chris, absolutely fantastic. Before I click see you later or press the button and see you later, do you want to give your channels, your podcast a bit of a promotion? Yeah,
no problem at all. Yeah, it's at Rams Review Podcast on X or Twitter, or it's called now, Instagram and Facebook. I'm DCFC_CMH if you want to follow me. I think my follow won't be that popular with many football fans, because actually away from doing this, I'm a professional basketball referee. So really? I'm in Sheffield a fair bit with the Sharks and the Hatters. So I always come up to the Cannon Arena a few times. So, yeah, if you ever recognise me run up and down a basketball court blowing a whistle, Stevie, and you're there, come and say hello, mate, and we'll have a drink.
Chris, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to say goodbye, and we're going to have a quick chat about basketball and my daughter playing for the Hatters. This has been the Wednesday week, guys, and we will see you later.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week, bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there, podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.